Laura Phillips. Join the meeting.
Wanda Serrano.
Join the meeting.
We'll start the webinar in next 1 minute. All right, thank you all for joining the webinar this morning. The webinar is on people analytics with the use of artificial intelligence, brought to you by Findability Sciences along with IBM. The key speakers for today are Anand Mahurkar, who is the founder and CEO of Findability Sciences, and he was also on the board of the IBM Watson, advisory board of IBM Watson, and Shengyu Zhang, who is a cloud evangelist and
Join the meeting.
And technical architect with the IBM Watson team. As some housekeeping items, everybody will be on mute. Y'all can send me all the questions, and we will take up the questions at the end of the webinar. And as time permits, if we have an ability to show our demo, we will do that. But I think you will find this webinar not just informative, but also very exciting with the kind of presenters we have. So without taking too much time, over to you, Anand.
Good morning, everybody. This is Anand Mahurkar from Findability Sciences. I just want to do an audio check. Balaji, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay. People as an asset is very important to all of us and those who have joined from various organizations. Thank you very much. Between me and Senyu, we are going to walk you through a completely new world, which I'm sure some of you must have heard or read about, or some of you may have some experience about it. But before I go there, I would like to take some assistance from Friedman's, a book which released about a year ago. And if none of you have heard about this book or read about it, I highly recommend you all to lay your hands on this book, which is called Thank You for Being Late. This is really
Join the meeting.
Extremely well articulated guide for the current age of technology and how it is reshaping not only our personal lives, our business lives, and the world as a whole. So what Mr. Friedman talks about this in book,
Join the meeting.
Talks about in his book, and I'm going to take you all to a little bit of journey that though today is 2018, what we are talking and what me and Senyu are going to present to you is really started 11 years ago. So no way this is new, no way this is something futuristic. This already exists. And I want you all to wonder that why I'm going to 2007. From our point of view at Findability Sciences, we believe that 2007 was the most important year And it really matches with what Mr. Friedman talks about in his book is Thank You for Being Late. So this is most important year ever in the technology world. Number one, because the iPhone came to its existence. As you know that from the year iPhone launched, practically our lives ranging from personal to business to the way the businesses are conducted has dramatically changed. The next is Facebook, though it was late 2006, but really the adoption started 2007. Twitter came into existence, Hadoop came into the existence, and those who may not know, Hadoop is the database technology which is now used for handling large data, which we're going to cover up as we go later. GitHub, which is again the technologies used. Android took the birth in 2007. Airbnb started. Google purchased YouTube, and I can just go on and go on and go on. But very, very interesting things happened in this 1 year.
Like
Practically, it.
And then change like the specific admins.
Yeah.
Balaji, can you put everybody on mute, please?
Yeah.
This is the same kind of website.
Yep.
Did you? So I don't know.
So every industry vertical has impacted in this one single year of 2007. And if you all can sit down after this webinar and go back and see your memories that how we behaved, how we worked, how we acted has really changed since that year. So the last thing in this year which changes the total size of computing. And again, diving into the book which Mr. Friedman has written, that there are three major forces has really started impacting on this planet in the technology world and practically reshaping the world since 2007 to going into 2020. That's really the forecast we can do it so far. So what are those three? And this is again very generic, nothing to do with the HR as a sector or technology as a sector, but mainly that the digital globalization has changed the market dramatically over the last 7 years. As you know, with iPhone coming in, and now you can tap onto glass and type, you can take pictures, you can connect to somebody with Twitter, you can connect with somebody on Facebook. So the digital globalization has changed the market dramatically. The second is the mother nature, which is again nothing to do with technology, nothing to do with 2007, but there are dramatic changes happening into the environment, the pollution, the way the whole countries on the earth are shaping up. And there is a dramatic change since 2007 to 2020. And last but not the least is really the Moore's law. And I'm going to dive down into this Moore's law because this is directly proportionate to what we are talking about, that how people analytics or why people analytics and how it is possible now and why it was not possible in the past. So what Moore's law really talks about is it's an observation that the number of transistors on every dense integrated circuit board in a computer or any processing device is doubling every year. And this started from last probably 10, 20 years ago. So now imagine that every year it doubled. And now we have so many transistors on a square inch of a circuit board. And they are now doubling since 2007. So each one of you have a smartphone device on your hand, which has minimum 100,000 times more power than what the computer which sent the man to the moon had that time. So that 100,000 times better computer is in your hand. And that's really the Moore's observation that the chip, the capacity to process data is really doubling every year passes by. So because of these three things, there are mainly three forces acting in the market. And again, all HR executives on this call, you know that there is a power of one. That now it has really come to the fruition that one can do anything. As you all know what happened when Sony hacked, one person could go and take down a company down or a country down. The second is the group of many. So people can form a group, and because of these three things, and particularly because of the technology, the group of many have dramatically changed. Then the group of power flows, how the opinions flow within an organization, within a country, within a company, within the whole globe has changed very, very fast. And really the last point where I want to focus is the power of machines. That machines now have 5 senses. The machine can smell, machine can see, machine can talk. And this power of machine is dramatically changing every field of the industry, including the human resources. And how it is reshaping the human resources is what we're going to talk. So this 2007 to 2011, let's take a jump. That something happened dramatically in year 2011, where the technical world where we all live at Findability Sciences and IBM had changed. And the users like you on the call has also have now awakening happened in 2011 that actually machine can have as big power as human brain. So I'm sure each one of you watched that Jeopardy show. If you are not, then I highly request this weekend, spare 20 minutes, go to YouTube, search for IBM Watson and Jeopardy challenge, and you can watch that fascinating event happened in the technology world. While this is an entertainment show, while these people got entertained on television, there were the shock waves in the technology world that machine can beat one of the two most successful contestant on this Jeopardy show by a huge margin. And you can see those numbers, 300,000, 1 million, and 200,000. And the machine can, because it could respond in 3 seconds, it could understand natural language. When the anchor asked the question, it could really fabricate a question. Again, those who may not know, the Jeopardy show stands out from other any such shows is because that's the only show when you are being told answer and the contestant has to fabricate a question. Since the human babies are born, we are never trained to create a question. We are always trained to answer a question. So in this show, you really need some different power in order to learn the answer and then create a question. So imagine a machine can, in less than 3 seconds, understand that answer and promptly answer back in a natural language with an English answer saying that this is the question for that question. So that changed the world. And I'm very happy that Findability Sciences is one of the first 5 partners which IBM chose on the earth to really take this Watson as a 2011 technology wave and start implementing solutions for real life problems. And at this point, I would like to invite Senyu. Senyu, can you please come online and share with the audience what is really this IBM Watson? What really happened in 2011 and how and why the world is changing in general in the technology? So Senyu, over to you, please.
Sure, absolutely, Anand. Hey, Anand, just to do an audio check, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Senyu from IBM. When we talk about what is Watson, we have to talk about what is cognitive computing. And Watson now becomes more of a synonym of a cognitive. The traditional computing model is a program, which means it is a rule-based, logically driven, and dependent on organized information. But cognitive computing is based on probabilities. They learn systematically, not dependent on rules, and can handle disparate and also a variety of different data. And so a cognitive system has 4 different dimensions, as you can see on the slide. So first of all, a cognitive system can understand unstructured information, such as the image, videos, natural language, and sounds or voices. And secondly, once a cognitive system understands, it can then reason through it, giving us new context to weigh and consider. And then a cognitive system can also learn continuously instead of just being programmed by static rules. And lastly, a cognitive system can interact with us, with our customers, dissolving the barriers between human and machine, and thus presenting a unique and essential user experience.
Join the meeting.
Yeah, so even I have gone through the 4 dimensions of a cognitive system. You're probably still wondering, what is Watson, really? Is Watson a tablet that you can talk to, or is Watson a huge IBM mainframe, or is Watson a robot in a hotel room, or on an IBM conference site that you can talk to? Yeah, and the next slide, please. Yeah. Well, the simple answer is yes and no. Watson is the software behind that makes all these things possible. So in essence, it can be all of those things. But at the core, Watson is a powerful computing platform that is cognitive in nature, meaning that it can process information similar to a human mind. Next slide, please. And so in other words, you don't plug Watson into a wall. You plug Watson into your platform. You embed Watson into your system to make your platform and your system more intelligent and cognitive. Yeah, and back to you.
Thank you, Senyu. So, Senyu, really, what you shared with the audience that Watson is not a tablet to which you can talk. Watson is not a super mainframe computer to which you can work like the way the IBM software programs work in the past, nor Watson is a robot, but Watson is really a combination of all of that. So this is a machine, or this is a technology where you can have conversation in natural language. You can process natural language and come out of with the results. So really what happened in 2011 is that now you have to handshake with a machine, and machine has now ability to understand, comprehend, reason, and give you responses back. And even like the humans do, they learn. So in fact, when I try to explain Watson technology to our customers, I typically take example of, say, a human child. When human child takes a birth, it typically takes birth with a basic intelligence and basic capabilities. And in the society, with the family, it learns language, then it slowly learns subjects, it goes to primary school, middle school, high school, and then in the college, it takes a specialization. And someone goes for medicine, somebody goes for accounting, somebody goes for engineering. So same way, the cognitive systems, you can actually now train into various vertical, and this is what Watson does. Now, coming back to the employee, we know that since 1990s, employee engagement has become a big thing. And what has really become is that it is a key to higher productivity, retention, profit increases, better customer satisfaction. And every organization and everybody on this call, I'm sure you have been told, or that is your motto, or you really strive to get employee engagement. Now, from now onwards, we would like to talk for the next few minutes is how this whole cognitive system, which I talked about, how since 2007, the world which has changed, which I'm referring to, is really impacting on employee engagement, or the way you guys measured employee engagement, or you engage with each one of the employee in your organization. So typically, as you all know, and it's really not a subject expertise for us on the human resources side, we as a team on this call is all technologists, but we know that the large organizations like one which you represent typically rely on surveys. You go and talk to an employee, you try to go and talk to them and understand personal body language or physical body language. And you come back and tell to a manager, oh, I met Anand and he was not really happy. His body language was not really happy, or he doesn't agree. So all these observations which human brain did, now the machine has the ability to do that. But let's dive down into some of the interesting statistics by the Impact Achievement Group and HR Marketer, that these 48% of the respondents didn't believe that the employee surveys provide an honest and accurate assessment. And compared to 31% who really thought that surveys painted a true picture. So there's quite a difference between those who understand or like the idea of surveys, or who don't feel that surveys are important or really work. But the second thing is that some argue that employees are more apt to answer survey questions positively, and creating the sense is everything is fine, at least on the surface. But there are a lot of undercurrents. There are a lot of things which for executives like you who manage 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 employees, it really becomes difficult to just get these positive answers and we rely on that. And the last observation from the same group I would like to present here is about 58% of the respondents agreed that results did not or only slightly help their managers to gain better understanding of what behaviors or practices they could change or improve. And reading into this, 2016, we thought that can we use really Watson, and can we come to assist any of the HR executives to see if cognitive machines can do something different than what we did so far. So some of the questions we said that are the engagement or surveys are just a HR checkbox, or it's really to do some tool to some damage control, or do these surveys simply give employees the pretense to voice some within the company, or the last question is that do these current HR management systems, which are really transactional, which support on all transactional data like increments, promotions, vacations, compensation, experience, those are all defined data fields. And can those really give you improvement on the system engagement? Then when we look into it now, really employees are creating data all over. And then I would like to again remind you about 2007. Everything has changed. Each employee, each human, each person has minimum 3 devices with them. So the data is all over. The data is the new oil. Now, each HR executives like you or those who deal with people engagement, you need to see that how this data, how this new oil, it's really a crude oil, how you can refine it and really fuel your engines of people engagement and do better performance. And then data is a new currency. You really don't need to go out and look for something. The data which exists within your organization, you can use it as a new currency. And then it's really big with the speed and variety. At this point, I would like to go into that, how this data is all over. My pretext of that data is all over, and you can mine this data, you can use it as oil. So let's see, these are your employees. What you have really within your organization is the structured data in which you have rows and columns, and you have employee data sitting into your HR management. Outside that data, you have tons of Word documents, PDFs, audios, images, Excel sheets created by the employees. Then you know that for sure that employees are in the public domain. They are tweeting, they are blogging, they are creating content outside the organization, for the organization or independently for their personal satisfactions. And then there is a World Wide Web. There is so much of content now available, whether it is paid or publicly available. You can now have access to these data, whereby you can start now creating 360-degree profile of your employees. And last but not the least is a Internet of Things data. And again, when I talk about Internet of Things, I'm not referring to any personal devices, but we are talking about the sensors. We are talking about all the data being created in your offices, your organizations, which is ranging from for security to any measurement purposes. Now, all this data can come into a computing cloud. And that's another major technology change happened since 2007, that we are able to store these large amounts of data into a centralized place. So now if I have this centralized data, and if I can now take that data and apply to Watson. So again, I'm taking you back into 2007, bringing you forward to 2011, where we have a cognitive technology, and Watson has a very interesting service called Personality Insight. Now, if you can take this data, unify it, and then combine Watson's capability of understanding these personality insights, you can do now 3 interesting things. And this is a word we coined, is you can actually now know the digital body language of every employee. You don't need to meet somebody physically, but you can create, because of the digital crumbs they have created, you can understand their body language. You can now very well understand employee persona. In the past, you did these surveys, you did interviews. At the end of the year or quarter, you did performance reviews. The managers gave some feedback, and HR executives like you created a persona of employees, or particularly those who are handling recruitments. You know that the managers like us, we just tell you, oh, we need a developer in Java. But when you want to know what type of person you want to recruit, in addition to the technical skills or in addition to the skills they want, you really want to know what type of people you want. And you guys have all skills in order to define those personas. But here now, a cognitive technologies like IBM Watson and this combination of data can provide you employee personas, which finally leads to people analytics. So before we get into more on digital body language or employee persona and people analytics, I would like to again invite Senyu. And Senyu, can you please tell everybody on what is the Personality Insight? What is this service and what does it do?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So it has long been the dream of the marketers to understand and serve each customer as a unique individual, and also at the same time at a massive scale. So sometimes this is expressed as the holy grail of the marketing. So the same thing can be said about workforce management or human resource, to understand and serve each employee as a unique individual and also at a larger scale. But the key challenge of this has been always the unavailability of a technology that can understand a customer or an employee intrinsically at scale. IBM Watson Personality Insights is the first technology that leverages data offered by individuals and provides a personality portrait of the user. So this enables organizations to understand each individual's personality characteristics, needs, and values at a massive scale. So the way how Watson Personality Insight works is like this. So first, Personality Insight takes input text and then performs linguistic analysis to develop a personality portrait and then makes engagement recommendations. So on the next page, please. So the personality portraits are based on three different psychological models. The first one is called the Big Five model. So Big Five model is one of the best studied models by psychologists. It can be dated back to 1960s. It is the most widely used personality model to describe how a person generally engages with the world. The service computes the five different dimensions and also the 30 facets of the model. And so sometimes the dimensions are often referred to as the ocean model. So O stands for openness, C stands for conscientiousness, E for extroversion, A for agreeableness, and N for neuroticism, or sometimes called emotional range. And then the second model that is used by Watson Personality Insight is the needs model. So the needs model describes which aspect of a product or an object or the environment will resonate with a person. So the model includes 12 different characteristic needs. For example, excitement, harmony, curiosity, ideal, closeness, self-expression, liberty, love, practicality, stability, challenge, as well as structure. And then the last model, which is called the values model. The values model describes motivating factors that influence a person's decision-making. The model includes 5 dimensions of human values. So the first value is self-transcendence, or helping others. The second one is conservation, or tradition. And then the third one is hedonism, or taking pleasure in life. And then the fourth one is self-enhancement, or achieving success. And then the last one is open to change, or excitement. So based on those 3 different models, you can implement a variety of different ways to analyze and also understand each individual's behaviors in a larger scale. So Alan, back to you.
Thank you, Senyu. So this is really exciting. So just repeating, Senyu, what you shared with us is that Watson Personality Insight Service takes the text created or generated by an individual. So at Findability Sciences, we use a very interesting word. We define it as a self-authored text. So if we have any individual self-authored text, and as you all know, we are creating text and unstructured content every second, every minute. So this may be via email, this can be text messages, this can be a Facebook blog, or this can be a tweet which I'm going to do it, or the blog which I write it, or a research report I write, author it. So any of this content which is being created by an individual, if we feed it to Watson, Watson then gives us the personality insights. And as Senyu suggested, that there are 3 main models, and we are finding very interesting things out of these 3 models. But I would like to leave one more number for you guys, is that this produces 52 numbers for every individual. And these 52 out of that, the 3 main silos which Senyu just presented are the Big Five model, the Ocean model, the needs model, and the value models. Now, not only the personality insights are important, but the needs and values of an individual, if you come to know about those, you as HR executives can do fascinating things in terms of creating a same needs team or same values team, or you can do a mix and match. If you have a special project, you can quickly go and find the people having the similar needs or similar values or similar personalities. So that additional benefit, in addition to knowing just personality, the needs and values model really makes it very interesting. So how all this works? So let's go through a quick flow of the data so that you know that this is not just fictitious and how it works. So assume that you have a HR system, you have existing data systems, you actually have existing data where you have maintained all employee systems like Workday or like the PeopleSoft or any of those ERP systems where you have employee related data. That data typically sits within your firewall. So the red line indicates that your internal data. So then your internal social communications, your assessment information, your performance evaluations, your any structured content which you have in the system, that typically flows into the cognitive platform like ours. And then what we do is that we do the match for individuals and take any external data if needed. Most of the people analytics implementations, we generally don't need any external data, but there are some customers who find it very interestingly to get some dimension from the external data like Twitter or the blogs or any of other social medias. Now, once we make that match and once we get the data, there we go to IBM Watson, we send the unstructured content, and we get the 52 numbers from Watson back into the platform. Now, as I earlier mentioned, this all system sits in the cloud. It doesn't interference with what you have. It really overlays, and this is not a replacement, but this is really addition to what HR technologies you are using. Now, what it does is that then we compute very interesting parameters for executives like you. So we do motivation index. What is the relationship index of John Smith? Or what is the Sally Mae's churn index? So every individual can get assigned with these numbers. And then you will have a tremendous potential of creating persona. So for example, if you are recruiting a sales manager in Midwest, then you know that your sales manager should have this type of persona, this type of altruism, this type of needs and values. So you can then create your own personas, and then digitally you can match that personas with all the incoming candidates you are getting. And then the data can flow back into your HR system, and you are going to get now a tremendously enhanced people analytics in addition to what you already have in your, say, records management systems, or we call it as a parking lots for your HR data. Those are all very good, and you use those for a number of years in your careers. But now here is an ability where the unstructured data can be processed practically every day, every minute, every week, every month. And you don't need to rely on to those annual surveys or annual reports, whereby then you are doing based on somebody has entered the data. The chance is that you can have very natural data coming into the system, and you can create these indices and produce results for various of your employees. Here's a snapshot of how people analytics can really create these indices. And as Senu talked us about the various silos of the data. So when you take personality, we know that person's sentiment, we know tone, we know whether that person is agreeable or not on a scale of 0 to 100, what is their consciousness, what is extroversion, etc., etc. So here is where a typical example of what goes into the computation of a typical motivation index. Or if I want to take an engagement index, then what are the parameters go into defining an engagement index? Now, coming back to what Senu was talking about is that we actually get the numbers. So I can say the agreeableness of John Smith is 65 and consciousness of Sally Mae is 75. So these numbers then go into an algorithm in computing these indices. So for the HR managers like you can just say, okay, show me all the people whose motivation index is 50 and below. Now that list becomes a completely a gold mine for you all to work with the respective managers, respective departments in seeing why the motivation level is low. And these are really indicative systems. These are the systems which predicts few things for you as a machine. And those can become an augmented intelligence and not necessarily just artificial intelligence for the way you manage your employees. So at the end, the application areas for this people analytics, which is again non-traditional, there are not many systems like this which are available, very natural. You don't need to exert anything more to collect the content. The systems can collect the contents through your natural communications with the employees. But the application areas for this is really, the way I would like to define is for incoming, existing, and outgoing employee management. So it practically covers the whole spectrum of human resource management. And again, it doesn't undermine what you have in terms of your structured data or your human resources systems, but really puts at an umbrella or puts as a cover on top of it and provides you now the entire cognitive analytics for people's personalities, needs, values, and these computed indices where you can get insight and manage your people more effectively. And not necessarily, as I said earlier, that since 1990, we are talking about people engagement. We had some tools and technologies and processes, but here is an era where we can handshake with a machine and get this people engagement really at a next level. So at this point, Balaji, doing the time check and checking with you that if we have any questions from anybody so far, please keep texting the questions in the the chat box icon you can see at the top of your screen. Balaji, do we have any questions so far?
Yeah, we have a lot of questions and the questions are coming in too. But for everyone on the call, please do send your questions that you all have. But Anand, a question for you is, how is the data security ensured?
Great. I thought this will be on the next level details on the security, but good question. I'll go back to this diagram just to take an illustration in front of you all that how the security is handled. The first is that these types of implementations are typically very specific to a customer. So this is not where the data is combined with some other organizations. In the illustration which I'm showing, that this red wall, and this is your current internal data or internal data systems, which is within firewall. This all sits in IBM Cloud, and we create a specific IBM Cloud instance whereby these data can be ported into that secure IBM Cloud. It is your instance. Only thing is, this is not on premise. These new technologies are all sit in the cloud only because of scalability, that if you, as you keep adding the data, it gets scaled up. But the data is secure, data is your own, in the transit is encrypted, and the data is owned by only you and not somebody else. So instead of just having a physical server within your organization, you are hosting it in a secure cloud. So it follows all the industry security standards, and the data is secure in cloud for your own specific implementation.
Thank you. We have a lot of questions. I'm going to take the next 3 questions. Can you, so the next question, again, this one, and this for you, is the question is, can we know how the indices are computed, and can we modify it if needed?
Sure. So as I bring this chart again, the indices are calculated using, and therefore I was showing it, this illustration here is that we use these 52 parameters coming from IBM Watson. We use your existing data in terms of the number of vacations, the compensation, experience level, etc., etc. So both, and for the lack of better definition, I will call that as a demographic data, and this is a cognitive data or a behavior data. So that is combined in order to create these indices. Now, we create these indices based on our HR expertise and domains which we have. But the way the technical algorithms are written, they are really flexible. So for example, in our computation, we may be giving a 20% weightage on openness while we are computing motivation. But suppose for an organization or somebody experts on this call may feel that no, really openness should have 30% weightage in our computation. We do have ability to change those indices. So the answer is yes, those can be modified if needed, and these are computed based on these various numbers. And we discuss in each implementation with our customer, giving them details that how these are computed, and if they want to alter or modify or add something, it can be done.
Wonderful. So what I hear is that the power is with the business users, the HR people, rather than with IT. And that's a powerful thing. So thank you. There is one other question. And that question is, can you talk about how companies get employee buy-in in terms of using all the employee data?
It's a little non-technology related question, but the buy-in of the data is, and since we work with various organizations, and since we have gone into this question or type of point many times with the lawyers and legal departments of organizations, I would answer it in that way, that technically and legally the content being created in an organization is owned by a company or owned by an organization. Now, today, you do exactly the same thing manually, whereas what you have is really a machine's ability to help you in processing that content. So let's go into an example of surveys. When you send surveys, employees are creating that content, and then you use those surveys or those forms or your annual reviews for computing the decisions which you take. Now, in this case, we are just taking an email communication, or some of the organizations have started very interesting initiative for use of such technologies, is you can create survey, but you can now create a survey saying you're not asking preempted questions. You're just giving a topic and asking employees to write 2 or 3 paragraphs. When Senyu and me talked about sending the self-authored text to Watson, I would give you another number, and will be an interesting fact for you guys to know. What we really need is up to 6,000 words written by an individual. So self-authored 3,000 to 6,000 words is a minimum requirement to come up with some interesting analytics. Now, if you have more words, it's always better. As you know, that machine can learn more and can provide you more. But we have seen that between 6,000 to 10,000 words is sufficient. And those 6,000 to 10,000 words can be fetched from many ways. So it's really up to every individual organization whether you want to go and seek employee authorization for using the content. And again, this is nothing, you are not doing anything untraditional. You just did it manually, you're taking help from machine. So the self-author text can be opted from many ways, or then go into a survey mode, but do the survey in saying, write an essay on a topic. And then somebody writes 3 paragraphs, that becomes the content which can be put into this. But again, the simple answer is, it really depends on every organization. However, each organization owns the content created by the employees. But based on the organization rules and policies, you can seek authorization from employees, or you can use the way the other organizations can use in terms of the content created is owned by organization and used up to 10,000 or 6,000 words for an individual to process this analytics.
Perfect. Thank you. That helps. I have one more question, and this is for Senyu. Senyu, the question is the data stored on the Watson cloud?
Hey, yeah, Balaji, yeah, that's a very good question. So the short answer is it's a choice. Your private data can still reside where they are. For example, the HR system that Anna showed in the diagram. And so we can also integrate with your data in a very secure way. And so Watson will not use your data to enhance our service. We are the only provider that allows you to have the choice of opting out, so that your data will not be used to improve the service that could be potentially used by your competitors.
Thank you, Senyu. And one last question, which is there, and then while there are many more questions, but the last question that we can take is, what confidence level and what is the accuracy of these computations?
Great. So I generally give an analogy that when we all use Google Maps to navigate across North America, we typically use but since I live in Boston area and we are a Boston headquartered company, and those who are familiar with this area, you know how the traffic is here. The Google Map suddenly tells me going home, saying that if I take another route, I may save 5 minutes. Now, typically, I may go on to that route and I may not save 5 minutes because some algorithms and computation has given Google alert that if I take that route, I may save 5 minutes. So these systems, and why I'm giving a Google Map an example, is that these cognitive and AI systems are very prescriptive and they are directional. So while increasingly their accuracy and their usage is very, very good, so for example, if we give that thing that somebody's motivation index is less than 50, and HR executive then goes and checks it out on that person and finds, no, there is nothing really wrong, everything is good. But you actually got a pre-alert where the motivation index is low, but you can go and check something. So the accuracies are fairly good, but the data should be used not like the erstwhile analytics systems where you were looking for 100% accuracy. There is a band we typically talk that plus minus 15% can be the variation in terms of these numbers which are computed, the 52 parameters we talked about. So in summary, these are very accurate, and we love to show, and I don't know, we don't have time, otherwise we would have run some sample profile of a public domain and we would have shown it. But these gives very accurate result. But I just want to warn everybody that these systems should be taken it as a augmented intelligence and not should be taken in a literal way where somebody's motivation or somebody's churn index is low, therefore we know that that person is living. So yes, it is an indicator. Somebody should work onto it, and it is giving you some alert because machine found something about that. But it is augmented intelligence. The decisions are finally taken by the humans.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for your time. And Senyu, thank you for your time. People on the call, like Anand was saying, we have our platform and we can schedule a demo for you, for those who are interested. If you all have any more questions, please send that across to me My email ID is balaji@findabilitysciences.com. I hope that you found this presentation very informative. It's a new way of doing things. It's a very different way of doing things. Like Anand was saying, data is the new king. And now how you use that, it's in your hands. And we would like to help you with that in your journey. So thank you again for your time this morning. And we look forward to hearing from you on your feedbacks and your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Balaji. Thank you, Senyu. Thank you, everybody
Yeah,
on the
thank you,
call.
everyone.
Have a good day.